The gate latch burned my palm that Christmas morning, 20 below, and the metal didn't care what day it was. I'd been up since 4:30 doing the fence walk, checking posts, looking for breaks in the wire, thermos of black coffee going cold in my coat pocket. The diesel tractor coughed 3 times before it caught, same as it had for 40 years. Cattle breath rose white against the gray sky, and my boot prints in the frost disappeared as soon as the sun touched them. I came back inside thinking about prime rib, my first wife's recipe. Claire's sister was visiting from Denver, and I wanted things nice. "Could you grab the—" I started. Claire cut me off sharp as a knife. "Stop whining about needing help with everything." Her voice carried across the table, loud enough her sister looked down at her plate. "Real men just handle things. You sound pathetic in front of company." And the serving fork was halfway to my hand. I set it down careful. The only sound was wood crackling in the fireplace. I stood up, pulled on my Carhartt, and walked out into the night. The northern lights flickered green over the fence line. I didn't close the door behind me. Stood at that fence for 2 hours. By the time I came back inside, I'd made a decision that would change everything. Behind me, I heard Claire's sister whisper something. Caught just the end of it. "Separate account ready?" Morning came with that flat winter light that makes everything look older than it is. I was already out doing the fence walk when the sun cleared the horizon, same as I'd done every day since I was 6 years old, and my father showed me how to check for loose wire. The cold made the barbed wire sing when you touched it, a high metal note that carried across the pasture. Claire was making coffee when I came back in, acting like nothing had happened. She handed me a cup, asked about my plans for the day in that voice she used when her sister might overhear from upstairs. Smooth as river rock? Professional? I took the cup, didn't drink it, set it on the counter, and went to change my boots. First time in 7 years of marriage, I'd left a cup she poured me sitting untouched. She noticed. I saw her notice. The phone rang while I was in the mudroom. Claire's sister, heading back to Denver early. Something came up. She apologized 3 times, wouldn't quite meet my eyes when she came downstairs with her bag. Claire drove her to the airport. House went quiet. I spent the morning in the barn, greasing the tractor. The smell of old engine oil and cold metal. My hands knew the work without thinking. Same part, same motion. 40 years. The diesel engine ticked as it cooled. Phone rang again around noon. Claire's sister. "Vern? I'm sorry about last night. That wasn't right, how she spoke to you. Appreciate you saying so." And silence on the line. Then, "Claire talked about separate finances before she married you. Did you know that?" The wrench in my hand felt heavier. "No, ma'am, I didn't. I just thought you should know." She hung up soft. I stood there in the barn with the phone in my hand, breath making clouds in the frozen air. Through the gap in the boards, I could see the fence lines stretching north. My great-grandfather filed the claim on this land in 1891. 4 generations without losing an acre. The afternoon I spent at the Cottonwood Feed and Supply, picking up mineral blocks for the cattle. Ray Tolliver was behind the counter, same as always, reading glasses perched on his nose while he did inventory. "How's Claire managing ranch life?" he asked, casual-like. Ray knew everybody's business. Came with running the co-op for 30 years. Fine as ever. He made a note on his clipboard. "Funny thing, she hasn't picked up the feed orders since October. Been you every time." I signed the receipt. "That right?" Just making conversation. But his eyes said different. Ray didn't make conversation. Ray made observations. I was loading the mineral blocks into the truck bed when he came out, wiping his hands on his apron. "Got a notice from BLM yesterday," he said, "about your winter grazing permit." My hands stopped. "What about it?" "Renewals due March 31st. They want proof of active management this year. Said there's some dispute flagged on your permit." He looked at me steady. "You file any dispute, Vern?" "No. Didn't think so." He went back inside, bell on the door ringing. I drove home with the truck heater, blowing cold air and my mind working through it. Separate accounts. Feed orders in my name only. A permit dispute I hadn't filed. Claire was in the kitchen when I came in, laptop open on the table. Shut it quick when she heard me. "How was town?" "Same as always." She smiled. That professional smile. "I'm making chicken for dinner." "Your favorite?" It wasn't my favorite. It was hers, but I didn't say so. I went upstairs to change out of my work clothes. Our bedroom smelled like her perfume. Expensive stuff. Not the kind you buy in town. From the dresser, I could see her car in the driveway. Montana plates, but the car was too clean for ranch life. No mud, no dust. Like she'd been driving on highways instead of gravel roads. In the bathroom trash, I found receipts. Crumpled up, but not torn. 3 months of rent payments to a place in Billings. Same address. 45 miles away. I smoothed them out on the counter. October, November, December. While I'd been feeding livestock at dawn, she'd been sleeping in a condo I didn't know existed. The sound of her laptop closing downstairs. The smell of chicken roasting. The receipts in my hand, paper thin as lies. I folded them careful and put them in my shirt pocket. Dinner was quiet. She asked about Ray, about the cattle, about nothing that mattered. I answered in short words. The chicken was dry. She didn't notice. After she went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with the receipts spread out. The clock over the stove ticked loud in the silence. Through the window, I could see the barn light I'd left on, yellow against the snow, steady as a promise. Ray's words kept coming back. Permit dispute, proof of management. I didn't file any dispute, but someone had. Valentine's Day, I made reservations at the only steakhouse in town. The kind of place with red tablecloths and candles and wine bottles. Thought maybe I could still fix things. Bought flowers from the grocery store. Roses, because that's what you're supposed to do. Claire arrived 20 minutes late. I was already sitting there, the flowers wilting in their plastic sleeve, on the empty chair beside me. She slid into the booth, wearing that gray dress she saved for client meetings back when she worked in marketing. City clothes. Wrong for here. Sorry, lost track of time. The waitress came over, Sarah Mitchell. Known her since she was 6 years old, and her daddy brought her in here for her birthday. She smiled at me, polite at Claire. What can I get you folks? We ordered. Claire didn't look at the menu, just pointed at something. The flower sat between us like an accusation. I thought we could talk, I said. About what? About Christmas. About us. She set down her water glass hard enough the ice rattled. Here's what I need, Vern. I need a partner who doesn't embarrass me by needing things all the time. Her voice carried to the next table. On purpose. I need someone who acts like a man instead of a child asking permission for every little decision. The couple at the next booth went quiet. The kind of quiet where people are pretending not to listen while listening hard. Sarah came back with the salads. Wouldn't meet my eyes when she set down my plate. Just gave me this look, sad and embarrassed for me. Same look you'd give a dog somebody kicked. I ate my steak, didn't taste it. Claire picked at her food and checked her phone 3 times. When the bill came, I paid it. Left Sarah a good tip because none of this was her fault. In the truck driving home, Claire stared out the window. The heater rattled. Neither of us spoke. I spent the next morning going through the trash more careful. People throw away what they think doesn't matter. But trash tells stories if you're paying attention. Found more receipts. Hotel bills from November. Spa appointments and billings every Tuesday for 3 months. Credit card statements in her name only, the one her sister asked about. And at the bottom of the kitchen trash, under coffee grounds and potato peelings, I found a torn envelope from the Bureau of Land Management addressed to Claire and Vernon Hastings Joint Ranch Management Claim. My hands went cold. I pulled it out, smoothed the paper on the counter. The envelope was empty, but the postmark was dated February 1st. 2 weeks ago. Joint management claim. I never filed anything like that. Didn't even know you could. The barn door slammed outside. Claire's car started up. She was heading to town, said something about groceries. I waited until the sound of her engine faded down the road. Then I called the BLM office in Billings. Hastings Ranch, I said when they answered. Got a question about a joint management claim filed on my grazing permit. The woman on the phone clicked through her computer. Yes, sir. Filed February 1st by Claire Hastings. Claims she's been co-managing the ranch operation since 2016. You'll need to provide documentation if you're disputing. I'm not disputing. Just wanted to confirm it was filed. It's in the system. Your permit's under review now. You'll need to show proof of active management by March 31st or the permit won't renew. I thanked her and hung up. Sat there at the kitchen table with the morning light coming through the window and the truth settling on me like snow. She'd been building a case, filing paperwork, creating a trail that said she ran this place alongside me while living in Billings, while never picking up feed orders, while I handled every fence, every head of cattle, every frozen water trough at 5 in the morning. The mailman came up the drive around 11. I met him at the box, more bills, a flyer for tractor parts, and a thick envelope from a law office in Billings. Inside, petition for legal separation and equitable distribution of marital assets. Claire Hastings versus Vernon Hastings. She wanted 50% of the ranch, the house, the equipment, everything my family built for 4 generations. Said she'd contributed unpaid domestic labor and management consultation for 7 years. I read it twice. The words didn't change. The sound of her car coming back up the road, tires on gravel, that expensive engine purring. I folded the papers and put them in my desk drawer with the receipts. She came in with grocery bags. You have lunch yet? Not hungry. She started putting things away, humming something, light, like she didn't have a care in the world. I watched her move around the kitchen, my mother's kitchen, my grandmother's kitchen, like she owned every inch of it. Like the land outside didn't remember who'd worked it, bled for it, kept it going through droughts and hard winters and cattle prices that break your heart. She'd been living 45 miles away for months. And now she wanted to claim she'd manage this place. The documents in my desk drawer felt like they weighed 100 pounds. I didn't sleep that night. Lay there listening to Claire breathe beside me, steady and deep like she didn't have a guilty thought in her head. Around 3 in the morning, I gave up and went downstairs. Made coffee in the dark, sat at the table with my father's old ranch logs. 40 years of records. Every fence mended, every head of cattle bought or sold, every vet visit and feed purchase. My handwriting, year after year. Careful notes in the margins about weather, about grass conditions, about which pastures needed rest. Not a single entry in Claire's hand, not one. I was still sitting there when dawn came. The cold winter light made the pages look yellow, fragile. But the ink was solid. Facts don't lie. The co-op opened at 7. I was waiting in the parking lot when Ray Tolliver pulled up in his old Ford. "Early for you," he said, unlocking the door. "Need to talk." He nodded, flipped on the lights. The store smelled like leather and grain dust and coffee that had been sitting since yesterday. Ray started a fresh pot without asking. "It's about Claire," I said. Figured. She filed a joint management claim with the BLM. Says she's been running the ranch with me since 2016. Ray poured 2 cups, slid one across the counter. "That's interesting, seeing as how I've got 7 years of receipts with only your signature on them. Could you write that down, for the record?" He studied me over the rim of his cup. Ray had known me since I was a kid, coming in here with my father. Knew my family, knew what this land meant. "I'll do better than that," he said. "I'll testify to it, if it comes to that. BLM hearing, court, wherever you need me." He set down his cup. "Records don't lie, Vern. And my records say Claire Hastings hasn't picked up a bag of feed or a salt block since October of last year. Before that, she came in maybe twice. Always to use the bathroom or buy a Coke. Never for ranch business." Something loosened in my chest. First time in weeks I could breathe all the way. "I appreciate that, Ray. Your family's been customers here since my grandfather ran this place. That means something." He pulled out a legal pad, started writing. "I'll get you an affidavit by tomorrow." Dated, notarized, the whole thing. The bell over the door rang. Dolores Kimball came in, stamping snow off her boots, silver braid down her back, and her late husband's feed cap on her head. She took one look at me and stopped. "Vern Hastings, you look like 10 miles of bad road." "Morning, Dolly." She walked over, set her gloves on the counter. "Don't you morning me. What's that woman doing to you?" Ray excused himself, went to the back, giving us space. "Nothing I can't handle," I said. "Bullshit." Dolly crossed her arms. "I've been running my place alone since Tom died 5 years ago. You know what he told me on his deathbed? Said I'd never manage it without him. Said I should sell to his brother, let the men handle it." She leaned in close. "Took me 5 years to prove I could do it. To prove that land didn't need him, it needed somebody who'd actually work it. You hearing me?" "I hear you. As my husband doubted me because he never saw me as capable. Your wife's doubting you because she wants what you built without earning it. Don't you dare let her make you question 40 years of work." She picked up her gloves. "Bring me your ranch logs. All of them, tonight. I'll go through every page with you. We're going to show that BLM exactly who runs Hastings Ranch." My throat went tight. "Why would you do that?" "Because when Tom died, you were the first one at my door. Brought me a casserole and fixed my fence line without being asked. Didn't say a word about me being capable or not. Just did the work and left." She put her hand on my arm. Hard, calloused from holding reins and hammer handles. "That's what neighbors do. And right now, you need a neighbor." After she left, Ray came back out. "Dolly's right, you know. You've got people in your corner." He refilled my coffee. "When's the last time you talked to Jenny?" My daughter's name hit like a fist. 2 years, maybe longer. That girl loved this place. Used to come in here with you, remember? 6 years old, wanted to carry the feed bags herself. Claire said she needed space. Said I was crowding her. Ray shook his head. "Maybe you should call Jenny yourself. Find out what she actually said." I drove home with Ray's words circling in my head, and the promise of Dolly's help sitting warm in my chest. The ranch looked different in the morning light, like I was seeing it fresh. The fence posts my grandfather set, the barn my father built, the house 4 generations had lived in. Claire's car wasn't in the driveway. Gone to Billings, probably. To that condo I wasn't supposed to know about. I went inside and pulled down every ranch log from the shelf in my office. 40 years of records, going back to when I was 28, and my father handed me the ledger. "Keep it honest," he'd said. "Keep it exact. The land remembers, but paper proves it." Stacked them in boxes, loaded them in the truck. Dolly's place was 10 miles north. I'd be there by sundown. First time in months, I felt like I wasn't fighting alone. Dolly and I spent 3 nights going through the logs at her kitchen table. She'd make coffee, put on her reading glasses, and we'd work page by page. Every fence repair, every veterinary call, every weight recorded at market. 40 years of my handwriting. Not a single line in Claire's. "This is airtight," Dolly said on the third night, stacking the last ledger. "You've kept better records than most corporations. The BLM's gonna see that." "I hope so. I know so." She tapped the pile with one calloused finger. "But there's one more thing you need, Vern." "What's that?" "Witness testimony. People who've seen you work this place. People who know Claire's never been involved." She pulled out a pad of paper. "We're gonna make a list." "Ray's already on board?" "Who else?" We worked until midnight, building a case with names and phone numbers and years of neighborly observation. When I drove home, the truck cab smelled like Dolly's coffee and wood smoke from her stove. For the first time in weeks, I felt something like hope. That feeling lasted until I got home and found Claire in the kitchen, with her laptop open and her phone pressed to her ear. "Yes, that's the date," she was saying. "March 3rd, 2 o'clock. Emergency marriage counseling. Both of us." She looked up at me, smiled that professional smile. "He just walked in. I'll call you back." She hung up. "We need to talk." "About what?" "About us. About fixing this marriage." She closed her laptop with a soft click. "I've scheduled counseling in Billings. Week from Thursday, March 3rd. I set my keys on the counter. "That's fine." She blinked. "Really? You want counseling? We'll do counseling." Something flickered across her face. Surprise maybe, or suspicion, but she nodded. "Good. 2 o'clock. Don't be late." After she went upstairs, I checked the weather report on my phone. Blizzard warning issued for March 2nd through 4th. Heavy snow, whiteout conditions expected. They'd been talking about it for 3 days. She knew. Had to know. You don't live in Montana without watching weather. And she'd scheduled that appointment anyway. The next morning, Marcus Shin called. My attorney, recommended by Ray, a transplant from California who'd grown up on his family's farm and understood land the way city lawyers never would. "Mr. Hastings, I've reviewed the separation papers. We need to meet." "When?" "Today, if you can. This is more complex than I initially thought." His office in Billings was small, neat, law books on every wall, and the smell of leather and old paper. Marcus wore cowboy boots under his suit pants. That made me trust him more than the degrees on his wall. "Your wife's claim has some teeth," he said, spreading documents across his desk. "Montana's a community property state. She's arguing 7 years of unpaid domestic labor and management consultation entitles her to 50% of marital assets. She never worked this ranch. I believe you, but she's built a paper trail." He pulled out a file. "Joint management claim with the BLM. Credit card statements showing purchases she claims were ranch supplies. Photos of the property she submitted as documentation of her involvement. Photos, property corners, fence lines, buildings, dated over the past 6 months." He turned his laptop toward me. She took them with her phone. Metadata is still attached. I looked at the images, my barn, my fences, my land, all photographed like evidence. "Here's the problem," Marcus said. "Your grazing permit hearing is March 30th. If you can't prove sole management, you lose the permit. Without that permit, you can't sustain the cattle operation. Without the cattle operation, the ranch value drops dramatically, which affects the divorce settlement if this goes to court. So she's trying to devalue the place. Or force a sale." He leaned back in his chair. "Mr. Hastings, when's your deadline for the estate transfer tax benefit?" "What?" "Your accountant should have mentioned it. There's a window for estate transfers that closes March 20th. After that, the tax implications change significantly. If you were planning to pass this ranch to your daughter—" "My daughter doesn't talk to me." Marcus studied me. "Maybe you should find out why." I drove home in silence, Marcus's words circling in my head. The blizzard was coming. Claire had scheduled counseling right in the middle of it. The permit hearing was 3 weeks away. And somewhere in Oregon, my daughter hadn't called in 2 years. The snow started falling March 2nd just after midnight. By dawn, it was coming down sideways, wind howling through the barn gaps. I could barely see the fence line from the house. My phone rang at 6. "Claire, don't forget counseling today. It's blizzarding. The appointment's at 2. You have time. I've got 40 head in the north pasture. They'll need—" "Vern," her voice went cold. "If you don't show up to this counseling session, I'm done. Completely done. You understand?" Through the window, I could see the snow piling up against the barn. The cattle in the north pasture were 2 miles out, beyond the ridge. If they got trapped in a draw during the storm, they'd die. "I'll be there," I said. She hung up. I sat there with the phone in my hand, the wind rattling the windows, and a choice that wasn't really a choice at all. At 7, I saddled up, put on every layer I owned, filled a thermos with coffee I wouldn't be able to drink through the cold. The tractor couldn't make it through drifts this deep. Horse was the only way. It took me 3 hours to reach the north pasture. Whiteout conditions most of the way, following fence lines by feel more than sight. Found the cattle bunched in a draw, snow already drifting over them. Spent 4 more hours breaking them out, driving them south toward shelter, losing feeling in my fingers and face. My phone died somewhere around noon, frozen solid. Got the last of them, into the lower pasture by 4 o'clock. Stumbled back to the barn, half frozen. The house was dark. Claire's car was gone. Had been since morning, I realized. She'd left for Billings before the storm really hit. On the kitchen table, a note in her handwriting. You made your choice. My attorney will be in touch. And underneath, legal papers, fresh ones, filed that morning before she left. Petition for emergency legal separation. Claim of marital abandonment. Request for immediate restraining order on asset disposal. I stood there dripping melted snow on the kitchen floor, too numb to feel anything but cold. Sunday morning, the storm broke. Church bells rang across the valley, calling people to service. I didn't go. Never missed a Sunday in 40 years, but I was too exhausted. Claire went, came back around noon with that satisfied look. People are worried about you, she said. That right? I told them the truth. That you abandoned our marriage counseling session to avoid dealing with our problems. That I'm trying to save this marriage and you won't even show up. She set her purse on the counter. Betty Morrison said it sounded like you need to work on your commitment. Frank Wade's wife agreed. Even Pastor Jim seemed concerned. The town had heard her version, the one where I was the problem. I'd saved 40 head of cattle that day, lost half the town by Sunday. I didn't defend myself. Didn't call Betty Morrison or Frank Wade or Pastor Jim to tell them about the cattle, about the storm, about choosing life over appointments. Learned a long time ago that the people who matter don't need explanations, and the people who need explanations don't matter. Instead, I went to the barn. My father's 1965 John Deere sat in the back corner where it had been since January, engine mount cracked, transmission leaking. I'd been meaning to fix it for months, but never found the time. Claire called it junk. Said I should haul it to the scrapyard, get something modern that actually worked. But my father bought that tractor the year I was born, taught me to drive on it when I was 8. It had pulled every plow, every hay wagon, every piece of equipment on this ranch for nearly 60 years. It wasn't junk, it was family. I started on a Tuesday morning, the barn cold enough to see my breath. Pulled the engine mount, examined the crack in the metal, clean brake, fixable if you knew what you were doing. Around noon, Dolly's truck pulled up outside. Heard you were hiding out here, she called, coming in with a toolbox in one hand and a welding kit in the other. Figured you could use some help. Don't need charity, Dolly. Good thing this isn't charity. This is 2 neighbors fixing a tractor. She set down her gear, pulled on work gloves. Besides, I need the practice. Haven't welded since Tom died. We worked in comfortable silence, the kind that comes from years of knowing how things are done. She showed me how to prep the metal, how to set the heat just right. The welding torch hissed blue-white, smelling like ozone and hot steel. This old thing's proof, you know, Dolly said, pulling off her welding mask. 40 years you've been maintaining equipment, keeping it running. That's active ranch management if I ever saw it. That's what Marcus said. Smart man. Document everything. Take photos. She ran her hand along the repaired mount. This tractor tells a story, Vern, about care, about not throwing away what's valuable just because it's old. We finished the repair by late afternoon. I started the engine, coughed once, then caught, purred smooth as it ever had. Your dad would be proud, Dolly said. I had to look away for a minute. She left at sundown, and I spent the evening taking photographs. The repaired tractor, my maintenance logs dating back to the day I bought my first socket set. Every tool in the barn, worn from use, each one part of the story of keeping this place running. Marcus came out the next morning, brought his laptop and a legal pad. Hastings, I've reviewed 40 years of your ranch logs. Your tax returns, going back to 2016 when you married Claire. Co-op records Ray Tolliver provided. He looked up at me. Your wife's never been listed as an employee, never drawn wages. The tax returns show you as sole proprietor, no partnership structure. Every receipt, every transaction, every business decision, it's all in your name. That's because I did it all. Exactly, but we need to prove it for the BLM hearing in 2 weeks. He pulled out a calendar. Here's the strategy. We present your logs. Ray's testimony that Claire's never been involved in ranch operations. Dolly's statement about your daily management. Photos of equipment maintenance showing continuous active management. What about the separation, the equity claim? That's a longer fight. But if we win the permit hearing, prove you're the sole operator, it undermines her entire case. She can't claim 50% of ranch equity if she's contributed 0% of ranch management. He made a note. The property photos she took, the ones she submitted as proof of her involvement, I need to examine those more carefully. Something about them feels off. He spent an hour on his laptop, clicking through metadata, making notes. Finally sat back. Hastings, when did Claire take these photos? Last few months, you said. The timestamps say November through February, but look at the email attachments. He turned the screen toward me. She sent these same photos to 3 different real estate agents. In February, subject line on one says property appraisal for listing. The barn went very quiet, just the sound of the wind and the tractor engine ticking as it cooled. She was planning to appraise the place, so I said slowly, force a sale, take half. That's exactly what she was planning. And these photos prove it. She wasn't documenting ranch management, she was documenting property value for liquidation. Marcus closed his laptop. This is good for us, Mr. Hastings. Very good. Her own evidence shows she never intended partnership. She intended profit. After he left, I sat in the barn with my hands on the tractor's steering wheel. Same wheel my father's hands had worn smooth, same wheel I'd teach to. I stopped that thought. But Marcus's question came back. When's the last time you talked to Jenny? I pulled out my phone, scrolled back through 2 years of silence to find her number, stared at it for 10 minutes. Finally, put the phone away. Some bridges you burn, some bridges burn themselves. I didn't know which this was anymore, but I knew one thing. Claire had been photographing my land to sell it out from under me. While I'd been fixing fences and feeding cattle, she'd been planning my exit. The tractor sat there gleaming in the lamplight, repaired and ready. Proof that what's maintained with care survives. I'd been maintaining this place 40 years. She'd been here 7 and already plotting its liquidation. The BLM hearing was in 12 days. Time to show them what maintenance actually looked like. The newspaper came on Thursday morning, our local weekly, printed on cheap paper that smelled like ink and wood pulp. I usually glanced at the headlines, maybe read the cattle market report. This time, my name was on page 3, The Invisible Labor of Ranch Wives, by Claire Hastings. I stood in the driveway reading it, the paper shaking slightly in my hands. For 7 years, I've supported my husband's ranching operation through unpaid emotional labor, household management, and operational consultation. I've endured isolation, harsh conditions, and a husband who refuses to acknowledge my contributions. When I asked for couples counseling to address these issues, he chose cattle over our marriage. This is the reality for countless ranch wives whose work remains invisible, whose voices go unheard. It went on for 800 words. Made her sound like a pioneer woman, suffering nobly while I played the tyrant. Never mentioned the Billings condo. Never mentioned that she hadn't picked up feed in 6 months. Never mentioned she was suing for half of everything while living 45 miles away. My phone started ringing by noon. 2 calls offering support, Dolly and Ray. 7 hang-ups where I could hear breathing before the line went dead. By evening, I'd gotten looks at the hardware store. Whispers at the gas station. Betty Morrison crossed the street to avoid me. Claire was turning me into a villain in my own town. I drove home and found her car in the driveway. She was in the kitchen making tea, humming softly. Saw your article, I said. I thought it was important to tell my story. And she poured hot water over a tea bag. People deserve to know what ranch wives go through. Ranch wives who live in Billings. Her hand paused, just for a second. Then she stirred her tea. I don't know what you're talking about. 3 months of rent receipts say different. You went through my trash? You went through my inheritance. She set down her spoon carefully. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Your aggression. Your refusal to communicate like an adult. I walked out before I said something I'd regret. Marcus called that night, late. Mr. Hastings, I've been examining those property photos more carefully. The metadata. I think I found something. What? Can you come to my office tomorrow? I want to show you in person. I drove to Billings the next morning. The roads were clear now, mud season starting early. You could smell the thaw in the air, wet earth and melting snow, that heavy scent of winter ending. Marcus had his laptop open when I arrived, 3 coffee cups on his desk like he'd been up all night. Look at this. He pulled up one of Claire's property photos. The barn from the south side, fence line visible. This image was taken February 14th, Valentine's Day. You remember where you were? Steakhouse with Claire. Right. So she didn't take this photo that day. He clicked to the file properties. But that's the date on the file, which means she either modified it or, and he pulled up an email. She sent this photo to Mountain West Real Estate on February 16th. 2 days later, subject line, quick appraisal, owner doesn't know yet. He opened 2 more emails. Same photos, different real estate agencies, all sent in February. All with subject lines about appraisals, property value assessments, potential listing prices. She wasn't documenting ranch management, Marcus said. She was shopping the property to see what it would sell for. Can you prove that to the BLM? Better than that, I can prove it undermines her entire equity claim. She's arguing she deserves 50% because she's been an active partner in ranch operations. But her own documentation shows she was planning to liquidate the asset without your knowledge or consent. That's not partnership, that's premeditated asset stripping. He leaned back in his chair, something like satisfaction on his face. Mr. Hastings, she made a mistake. She tried to use the same photos for two different purposes, to prove involvement with the BLM and to get appraisals from realtors, but the timestamps and email trails contradict each other. Her evidence destroys her case. I sat there looking at the screen. All those photos of my barn, my fences, my land, taken not out of care or involvement, but like a prospector evaluating a claim. The BLM hearing's in 9 days, Marcus said. I'll present this then. Show them she was never documenting management. She was documenting merchandise. Driving home, I watched the landscape change. Snow melting off the south-facing slopes, muddy patches showing through. The first hint of green in the low places where grass came back early. Spring was coming, whether Claire liked it or not. That night, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Dad? I nearly dropped the phone. Jenny? Yeah, it's me. Her voice sounded older, uncertain. I got a weird call from Claire yesterday. She said she was trying to save her marriage and needed family support, asked if I'd write a letter for her lawyer. What did you tell her? Silence for a long moment. I told her I'd think about it, then I thought about why I haven't called you in 2 years. She took a breath. Dad, I didn't leave because of you. I left because of her. Because every time I came home, she made me feel like I didn't belong there anymore. Like Mom's memory was inconvenient, like I was this ghost she wanted gone. My throat went tight. I should have called sooner, Jenny said. Should have asked your side, but I'm asking now. What's really happening? I told her. All of it. The condo, the fake BLM claim, the separation papers, the property photos. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Dad, she finally said, don't let her take Mom's land. After Jenny hung up, I sat in the dark kitchen for an hour, didn't turn on the lights, just sat there with the phone in my hand and the weight of 2 years pressing down. 2 years my daughter hadn't called. 2 years I'd thought she was busy, living her life, needing space like Claire said. 2 years Claire had been feeding me lies, while she fed my daughter something worse. The feeling of being unwelcome on her own mother's land. I went upstairs to the bedroom. Claire was already asleep, or pretending to be, her breathing even and deep. I stood in the doorway, watching her. And for the first time since Christmas, I felt something other than anger or betrayal. I felt doubt, not about the facts, those were clear as fence posts, but about what kind of man fights this hard. What kind of man uses lawyers and documentation and property records like weapons against the woman he married? My first wife, Sarah, used to say I had a gentle heart under all the ranch work, said that's why she loved me, because I could deliver a breech calf at midnight and still cry at our daughter's school play. Said strength wasn't about being hard, it was about staying soft in a hard world. Would she recognize me now? This man who counted receipts and hired attorneys and built cases instead of bridges? I went back downstairs, pulled out the old photo albums, Sarah and me on our wedding day. Jenny as a baby. The three of us on the porch, Sarah pregnant with our second child, the one we lost at 20 weeks. Sarah's funeral, though I didn't take many photos that day. Couldn't see through the tears to work the camera. Found one from that last Thanksgiving before she died. The whole family around the table. Sarah thin from the chemo but smiling. Jenny holding her hand. Me carving the turkey with shaking hands because I knew it was our last one together. Sarah had been sick for 18 months. Never once complained about the ranch work I couldn't do while sitting with her in hospital rooms. Never once made me choose between her care and cattle care. She understood that the land was part of us, not separate from us. That loving, it wasn't a betrayal of loving her. Claire didn't understand that. Maybe couldn't. I closed the album and sat there in the dark, listening to the house settle. Outside, I could hear the wind changing, softer now, warmer, the sound of winter letting go. My phone buzzed. Text message from Jenny. Dad, I'm sending you something. Should arrive tomorrow. Don't throw it away. I texted back, I won't. I love you. I'm sorry it took me so long to say it. I stared at those words until they blurred. Typed, I love you too. Nothing to be sorry for. But there was. I'd let Claire drive a wedge between us. Hadn't questioned it, hadn't fought it. Just accepted her version that Jenny needed space, that young people drift away, that it was natural. Natural. Like a daughter forgetting her mother's land was natural. Like 2 years of silence was natural. I'd failed Sarah by not protecting Jenny from that. Failed them both. Morning came with rain instead of snow. That soft spring rain that smells like earth and new things growing. the kind of rain that soaks in deep instead of running off frozen ground. I did the fence walk in my rain gear, boots squelching through mud. The cattle were moving to higher ground, instinct telling them the season was turning. In the low pasture, I found the first green shoots pushing through dead grass, winter wheat coming back. The FedEx truck pulled it up around noon. Big envelope, overnight shipping. I signed for it and took it inside. Inside, a stack of old photographs, some I recognized. Jenny as a little girl, riding on my shoulders. Sarah teaching her to gather eggs. The three of us at County Fair, Jenny's first 4-H ribbon. And some I'd never seen. Jenny had kept them, apparently, hidden them away when she left. One stopped me cold. My great-grandfather, the original Vernon Hastings, standing in front of a tent on empty prairie. The photo was dated 1891, the year he filed the homestead claim. Behind him, you could just see the corner of a wooden stake driven into ground. The beginning of everything. Someone had written on the back, in faded ink, "First day, started with nothing but determination and faith. This land will remember us." I turned the photo over and over in my hands. 4 generations. Started with a man and a stake and empty prairie, became 2,200 acres of working ranch, cattle that knew the land, fences that followed ridge lines my great-grandfather had walked. Claire wasn't in any of these photos. Wouldn't be. But Jenny was. And Jenny's children could be if she ever had them. That bloodline stretching back to 1891 and forward to whenever the land decided it was done with us. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with Marcus on the phone, going over strategy for the BLM hearing in 4 days. "We present your logs first," Marcus said. 40 years of documentation, then Ray's testimony, then Dolly's affidavit about equipment maintenance. Then we show the contradiction in Claire's photos, how she used them for real estate appraisals, not management documentation. Will it be enough? It's airtight, Mr. Hastings. The only question is whether the BLM agent is paying attention. He paused. "How are you holding up?" "I'm fine." "You don't sound fine." I looked at the photo of my great-grandfather, propped against the salt shaker, just thinking about what I'm fighting for, and whether I'm doing it the right way. You're fighting for what's yours, what your family built. There's no wrong way to do that. My first wife wouldn't have fought like this. Your first wife wasn't being stolen from. Marcus's voice was gentle but firm. "Mr. Hastings, defending what you've built isn't cruelty. It's stewardship. Your great-grandfather didn't let that land go without a fight. Neither should you." And after I hung up, I sat with the old photo for a long time. That man in the picture, weathered, serious, standing on empty ground with nothing but his determination. He'd started this. Built something from nothing through work and faith and refusing to quit. I owed him, owed Sarah, owed Jenny. Owed that man in the mirror who'd spent 40 years walking fence lines at dawn. The rain pattered on the roof, soft and steady. Outside, the land was waking up. Inside, I was too. The BLM hearing was Monday. 4 days to prepare. 4 days to remember who I was and what this land meant. I put the photo of my great-grandfather with the others, organized them in order, told a story in images, staked a tent to cabin to house, empty prairie to working ranch, one man's determination to 4 generations of legacy. Claire could write all the newspaper articles she wanted, could tell the town whatever story suited her. But these photos told the truth. And on Monday, the truth would speak for itself. The BLM office in Billings smelled like government buildings everywhere, floor wax and recycled air, and the particular mustiness of old files. The hearing room was small, fluorescent lights humming overhead, a table for the hearing officer and chairs for the rest of us. Marcus arrived first, carrying 2 boxes of documents and my 40 years of ranch logs. Ray came in his Sunday shirt, smelling like the aftershave he only wore to funerals and court. Dolly wore a dress. First time I'd seen her in anything but jeans and work shirts, but she'd kept her boots on. Her husband's feed cap was in her hands, turning it over and over. Claire came in with her attorney, a sharp-looking woman from Billings in a suit that probably cost more than a bred heifer. Claire had done her hair special, city makeup, the performance of a suffering ranch wife. We didn't look at each other. The BLM hearing officer was a woman in her 50s, gray hair pulled back, reading glasses on a chain. She looked tired already, and we hadn't started yet. "This is a permit renewal review for Vernon Hastings, Hastings Ranch. Winter grazing allotment. Mrs. Hastings has filed a joint management claim. Mr. Hastings disputes this claim. We're here to establish operational management for permit renewal purposes." She looked at Marcus. "Mr. Shin, you're representing Mr. Hastings?" "Yes, ma'am." "Proceed." And Marcus stood, and I watched him become someone different. Not the friendly man who wore boots with his suits, but an attorney who'd done this 100 times. I'll be brief. Mr. Hastings has operated this ranch for 40 years. I'm presenting daily operational logs covering that entire period. He opened the first ledger. These records show fence maintenance, livestock health monitoring, equipment repair, feed purchases, veterinary care, breeding records, and market transactions. Every entry is in Mr. Hastings' handwriting. There are no entries from any other party, and he walked the hearing officer through 3 sample years, 1995, 2010, 2023, showed the consistency, the detail, the unbroken chain of soul management. Additionally, I'm presenting testimony from Raymond Tolliver, manager of Cottonwood Feed and Supply, the primary feed supplier for Hastings Ranch. Ray stood up, cleared his throat. I've known Vern Hastings since he was a boy, sold to his father before him. In 7 years since he married Claire, she's come into my store, maybe twice. Never for ranch business. Every feed order, every mineral block, every piece of equipment, that's been Vern. I've got receipts going back to 2016, all signed by him, none by her. He sat down. Simple as that. I'm also presenting an affidavit from Dolores Kimball, neighboring rancher. Marcus handed over the notarized document. Mrs. Kimball attests to observing Mr. Hastings' daily management activities, including recent equipment repair and maintenance that demonstrates continued active operation. The hearing officer made notes, her pen scratching in the quiet room. Now, regarding the photos Mrs. Hastings submitted as evidence of her co-management documentation, Marcus pulled out his laptop, turned it toward the hearing officer. These images were taken between November and February. Mrs. Hastings claims they document her involvement in ranch operations. Claire's attorney leaned forward. They show Mrs. Hastings' documentation of property conditions, which is part of operational oversight. They show real estate appraisals. Marcus clicked through the emails. These same photos were sent to 3 different real estate agencies in February. Here's one subject line: quick appraisal, owner doesn't know yet. It's another: property value assessment for potential listing. A third: client interested in comparable ranch sales. The room went very still. Mrs. Hastings wasn't documenting ranch management. She was documenting property value for liquidation purposes. Without Mr. Hastings' knowledge or consent, Claire's face went pale. Her attorney shuffled papers, looking for a response that wasn't there. The hearing officer removed her glasses, looked at Claire directly. Mrs. Hastings, when did you last participate in direct livestock management? Claire's mouth opened, closed. I provide operational support and consultation. When did you last feed livestock? That's not really my area. When did you last repair equipment or infrastructure? Vern handles the physical labor, but I manage the household and provide. Mrs. Hastings. The hearing officer's voice was firm, but not unkind. I've reviewed family ranch operations for 15 years. I know the difference between a working partner and a non-participating spouse. Based on the evidence presented, you have not demonstrated any direct involvement in ranch management activities required for permit eligibility. She turned to me. Mr. Hastings, the permit renewal is approved in your name. Sole operator status. The joint management claim is denied. She stamped a form. That was it. Over in 45 minutes. We filed out into the hallway. Claire brushed past without a word, her attorney right behind her. I heard heels clicking fast toward the parking lot. Ray clapped me on the shoulder. First battle won. Court hearings in 2 weeks, Marcus said. The equity claim, but this helps, shows a pattern of fabricated involvement. Dolly gave me a quick hug. Proud of you, Vern. Your daddy would be too. They left together, talking about getting lunch. Marcus had to meet another client, and I stood in that fluorescent hallway with the hum of the lights overhead and 40 years of documentation in boxes at my feet. I'd won. The permit was secure. The ranch could continue. But I felt empty. Like defending the truth shouldn't require this much proof. Like love and partnership should mean something more than receipts and testimony. I was loading the boxes into my truck when I saw her, Jenny, standing by her car in the parking lot. She wasn't supposed to be here. Hadn't told me she was coming. But there she was, 42 years old, my daughter, looking so much like Sarah it hurt. I flew in this morning, she said. Drove straight here. Wanted to be here. Didn't want you to be alone. Something broke open in my chest. You didn't have to... Yeah, I did. She came closer. Dad, I'm sorry. For believing her, for staying away, for not calling. You're here now. I should have been here 2 years ago. She looked toward the building. How'd it go? Won the permit. Still have to fight the equity claim. She nodded slowly. Then, what if I came back? Not just for this. Really came back, helped you run the place. I stared at her. I'm a teacher. I can teach anywhere. There's schools in Montana. She twisted her mother's ring on her finger, Sarah's turquoise that I'd given Jenny after the funeral. That land's my mom's legacy. It's my legacy. I want to fight for it too. Jenny, I know it's a lot to figure out, but think about it. She pulled an envelope from her jacket. I brought something for the court case, if you want to use it. Inside, a letter, handwritten on school letterhead. To whom it may concern, my name is Jennifer Hastings Klein. I am the daughter of Vernon Hastings and the late Sarah Hastings. I'm writing to provide testimony regarding my stepmother, Claire Hastings's claim of partnership in Hastings ranch operations. I visited the ranch regularly from 2016 to 2021. During that time, I never observed Claire participating in ranch work, livestock care, equipment maintenance, or operational decision-making. On multiple occasions, she expressed disdain for ranch life and encouraged my father to consider selling the property. In 2021, Claire made it clear that I was not welcome at the ranch and that my presence was dwelling on the past, and I believe this referred to my mother's memory. I stopped visiting as a result. My father has operated this ranch for over 40 years. It represents 4 generations of family stewardship. Claire Hastings has been present for 7 years and contributed nothing to its operation. Respectfully, Jennifer Hastings Klein. I read it twice, my hands shaking. You don't have to use it if you don't want to, Jenny said quietly. But I wanted you to know. I see what she's doing, and I'm on your side. I'm on Mom's side. The parking lot smelled like spring rain and warm asphalt. Somewhere a meadowlark was singing. My daughter had come back. The court hearing was set for April 28th, 2 weeks after the BLM victory, and the land was fully awake by then. Green grass pushing through everywhere, cattle moving to fresh pasture, the smell of earth and growing things replacing the long winter's cold. Jenny moved back the week before the hearing, not to the main house, said she'd stay in the old foreman's cabin until things were settled. But she was there. Mornings I'd see her walking the fence line like I'd taught her when she was 6. Evenings we'd sit on the porch and go over ranch records, her asking questions about decisions I'd made, learning the operation again. Claire stayed in Billings, came by once to collect more of her things, didn't speak to either of us, just loaded boxes into her car and left. The courthouse was bigger than the BLM office. Higher ceilings, more people, the weight of real legal consequences hanging in the air. Marcus had 3 folders of evidence. Jenny sat behind me in the gallery, her mother's ring catching the light. Claire's attorney went first, made the same arguments: 7 years of unpaid domestic labor, emotional support, household management. Said Claire deserved compensation for her invisible contributions to the ranch's success. Mrs. Hastings sacrificed her career to support her husband's agricultural enterprise, the attorney said. She managed the household, provided consultation on operational decisions, created the stable home environment that allowed Mr. Hastings to focus on ranch work. And the judge listened without expression, then nodded to Marcus. Your Honor, I'll address each claim directly. Marcus stood, and I saw that same transformation, the friendly man becoming the precise attorney. First, career sacrifice. Mrs. Hastings left her marketing position in 2015, a year before meeting Mr. Hastings. She was unemployed when they met. Second, household management. Mr. Hastings's tax returns show he hired a cleaning service in 2017 and has maintained that service throughout the marriage. Third, operational consultation. We have 7 years of ranch logs, thousands of operational decisions, 0 evidence of Mrs. Hastings's input on any of them. He pulled out Ray's affidavit. The co-op manager testifies Mrs. Hastings never participated in feed purchasing, equipment acquisition, or any supply chain decisions. We have Mrs. Hastings' own property photos, which she submitted to multiple real estate agencies for appraisal purposes, showing her intent was liquidation, not partnership. Claire's attorney stood. Mrs. Hastings' contributions were less tangible, but no less valuable. Then let's discuss tangible contributions. Marcus opened another folder. Mrs. Hastings maintained a separate residence in Billings for 6 months. Rental receipts from October through March. During that time, she was physically absent from the ranch while Mr. Hastings continued all operational activities alone. She filed a joint management claim with the Bureau of Land Management, claiming co-management since 2016. That claim was investigated and denied 3 weeks ago. The BLM found 0 evidence of Mrs. Hastings' participation in ranch management. The judge made a note. Mrs. Hastings, when did you last participate in direct ranch operations? Claire shifted in her seat. I provided support in ways that aren't always visible. Please answer the question. When did you last feed livestock, repair equipment, or make operational decisions regarding ranch management? That wasn't my role. Vern handled the physical work while Mrs. Hastings. The judge removed his glasses. I've reviewed the evidence. Mr. Hastings operated this ranch for 40 years before your marriage and continued that sole operation throughout your marriage. You maintained separate residence, separate finances, and separate involvement. You contributed no capital, no labor, and no documented partnership in the enterprise. He looked at the documents in front of him. Additionally, evidence shows you approached multiple real estate agencies about property appraisal without Mr. Hastings' knowledge, suggesting intent to force sale and liquidation rather than continued operation. Claire's face had gone very pale. The petition for equitable distribution is denied. This ranch is Mr. Hastings' separate property, acquired before marriage and maintained through his sole effort. You have no claim to it. The gavel came down. Claire stood up fast enough her chair scraped against the floor. She left through the side door without looking back. Her attorney followed, briefcase clicking shut. Marcus shook my hand. Congratulations, Mr. Hastings. It's over. But I was already turning around. Jenny was standing there, tears on her face. First time I'd seen her cry since her mother's funeral. I didn't say anything, just held my daughter while she cried into my shoulder. Mom would be so proud of you, she whispered. So proud. 3 days later, we sat in Marcus's office for the estate transfer paperwork. The smell of leather and old paper, spring light coming through the windows. This transfers full title to Jennifer Hastings Klein, Marcus said, pushing the documents across his desk. No spousal claim possible since the equity case was dismissed. Clean transfer? I signed my name. Same signature I'd been signing on ranch logs for 40 years. Then pushed the papers to Jenny. She held the pen for a long moment. Are you sure about this, Dad? Your mother and I always planned to pass it to you. Just happened sooner than expected. What if I mess it up? You won't. You're a Hastings. It's in your blood. She signed. Marcus notarized everything. And just like that, the ranch that started with a man and a stake in 1881 passed to the 5th generation. We drove home together in my truck, windows down, warm spring air carrying the smell of new grass and cattle and earth. Jenny turned on the radio, some country station, playing songs I didn't know. I called the school district, she said over the music. They have an opening for fall, 4th grade. You're staying? I'm staying. She looked out at the passing fence line. This is home, Dad. Always was. I just forgot for a while. The ranch appeared around the bend. Same barn my father built. Same house 4 generations had lived in. But different now, moving forward instead of just holding on. We pulled into the driveway and I saw it. The old tractor sitting by the barn, engine cover open. Jenny had been working on it that morning, changing the oil, learning the maintenance rhythms. Dolly's coming by tomorrow, Jenny said, climbing out. Wants to teach me to weld. Says every rancher should know how to fix what breaks. Your mother knew how to weld. I know. I found her old welding gloves in the barn. They fit perfectly. That evening we stood at the fence line at sunset, same spot where I'd stood on Christmas night when this all began, but spring instead of winter. Warm sun instead of frozen darkness, my daughter beside me instead of alone. The first calf of the season was born that morning. Healthy heifer, strong legs, good bloodlines. Jenny had helped deliver it, her first time since she was a teenager. Got blood on her jeans and didn't complain once. Think Claire knows? Jenny asked. Knows what? That she never had a chance. That you can't claim something just by wanting it. You have to earn it, work it, love it enough to stay when it's hard. I thought about that. About Claire's car driving away toward Billings. About her trying to sell land she never understood. About the difference between possession and stewardship. The land remembers who loved it, I said. Your mother used to tell me that. She was right. Jenny leaned against the fence post, same way Sarah used to. About a lot of things. The sun dropped below the horizon. The tractor engine ticked as it cooled. That sound of work done, equipment maintained, another day of stewardship complete. From the barn, I heard a meadowlark singing. First one I'd heard in years, seemed like. Their song means spring is really here, winter truly over. Jenny heard it too, smiled. Mom's land, she said quietly. Our land, still here, still ours. The calf bleated in the near pasture. Its mother answered. The sound of continuation, of legacy, of life, going on, the way it was meant to. Some people pass through. Some take root. I knew which one I was now, knew which one Jenny was too. The land remembers. And now it would remember her. Same as it remembered all of us, written not in courthouse documents or property deeds, but in fence lines walked and cattle tended and spring mornings greeting the meadowlarks. Claire wanted peace. The kind where I'd stop asking for partnership, stop needing respect, stop existing except as a provider. I gave her peace. Permanent peace, just not the kind she expected. 3 weeks later, I sat on the porch at dawn with my coffee. The rain gauge showed 2 inches from last night's storm. Good for the grass. Good for the seedlings Jenny had planted in the garden plot her mother used to tend. I opened Sarah's old field notebook, wrote the date, the weather, the first meadowlark count in the Northeast 40. Continuing her work, keeping the record. Jenny's truck was already out by the barn. I could hear the tractor running, that 1965 Deere purring smooth as it ever had. She was learning the equipment, learning the rhythms, learning what her mother knew and what I'd spent 40 years understanding. That land doesn't belong to you. You belong to it. And if you're lucky, it lets you stay. Dolly stopped by most mornings now. brought her thermos and her welding kit and her rough wisdom earned through 5 years of running her place alone. The two of them in the barn, learning and teaching, the kind of friendship that forms between women who understand work. The daffodils I'd planted on Sarah's grave were blooming now, yellow and bright against the gray stone. Jenny put fresh flowers there every Sunday. Said it felt right. Said she'd been away too long. People ask me sometimes if I regret those years with Claire. The answer's simple. I don't regret what taught me who I was. I regret it took me so long to see clearly. My first wife used to say, the land teaches patience. Took me 68 years to understand that. Patience isn't waiting, it's knowing what's worth fighting for and what's worth letting go. Some battles you win with noise. This one I won with receipts, testimony, and 40 years of dawn fence walks. With work done right and records kept honest, with the kind of truth that doesn't need defending because it defends itself. But the real victory wasn't in the winning, it was in the staying. In the morning, coffee in the rain gauge and the field notebook that would outlast us all. In my daughter coming home, in the calves being born, and the grass growing back, and the tractor engine that still ran because someone cared enough to maintain it. Claire got her peace, permanent peace. The kind where she's gone and we're still here. The kind where the land remembers who loved it and who just wanted to sell it. The sun cleared the tree line, warming the porch boards. The fields stretched green toward the horizon. From the barn, I heard Jenny laugh at something Dolly said. A sound like her mother's, like morning light, like everything worth keeping. Some people pass through, some take root. The land knows the difference. Always has. And now, so do I.